this kind of thinking nowadays will get you nowhere with dog adoption. You will quickly be filtered out by rescues because your application is just going to sound self-righteous and entitled. Because you're capable of owning a dog, it does not mean you should own a dog, right? There should be some strong information shared on your part to say why you would be a great dog owner. Welcome to episode 7 of the Pawdoption Guide podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Muir, and this is your one-stop shop for the knowledge and advice you need to adopt and integrate the rescue dog of your dreams. Just like me, I adopted 2 rescue dogs of my own and my perfect little rescue cat sitting right here with me. So if you hear some purring, that's Hudson. Let's get right into today's episode. Dog adopters are easily frustrated these days by not hearing back from rescues. And really, who can blame them, right? Rescues are used to respond. Oh goodness, Hudson already getting in the way. Used to respond to most applicants, even if they weren't a match. So, in the good old days, you did hear back, even if you weren't the ideal match for that dog. So at least there was that feedback happening. You could understand maybe a bit more about why you hadn't been approved. But nowadays, that is not the case for most people. Most rescues are run on volunteers, so they just don't have the time, and they're getting a lot more applications, so they just don't have the time to respond to those inquiries. Also, applications are much more involved and arduous than they used to be. So that's so frustrating and time consuming. So anytime you do fill out an application, you're just like, I just spent 30 minutes doing that. I really hope something comes of it. So, you're more involved in that regard. Then you're also emotionally invested in the outcome because you saw the picture, you fell in love, you started picturing how that dog could fit into your life. Maybe their profile had certain things that had you going, oh yeah, they're the perfect fit. So you really felt like this was the one. And, you often don't really have any perspective on how many applications are put in, and that can be hard for you to not know when you are invested in this dog. And then the adoption criteria set by rescues has become so extensive. So not only have the applications become really detailed, but then that criteria that they're working off of to filter through applicants is just set so high. That bar is set so high. So you really can be easily filtered out when you are applying. So it just means there's so many more opportunities for you to not hear back following an application and again wonder and worry about why you're not being approved. So being easily discarded or out of the running for getting a dog is really common these days. So even, perfectly good dog adopters just aren't getting a chance because just for one reason or another, they just don't quite make the cut. So, I can certainly see why people are frustrated by the dog adoption process right now. It frustrates me. I want dog adoption to be accessible to all people. I want people to choose to adopt over going to a unreputable breeder or, a puppy mill or a puppy mill broker. I really want people to choose adoption, and this is just one more thing that really pushes people away from this process. So there are some common mistakes that people are making when they're applying, and these things can be what are really affecting your chances of being approved and moving on to that next part of the process. So that's what we're going to delve in today is what are these common mistakes people are making so that you can hopefully get on the right track and start to hear back from some rescues that you're filling out applications for. So the number one mistake that people are making when applying for a rescue dog is applying for incompatible dogs. That seems kind of silly, but it happens all the time. And as I follow all the social media feeds for rescues in Southern Ontario, I see them regularly saying, please don't put in an application if you haven't read the whole profile. It's so important that you know that you're already compatible before you're applying, because otherwise you're just taking a shot in the dark. So quit doing that. It puts a lot of strain on volunteers that are trying to help out the rescue organization, and just means they're going through unnecessary applications during the process. And it's going to leave you frustrated because you won't hear back because you are absolutely not a good candidate for that dog. You know, rescues are really good at trying to match dogs with good owners and see that they have a compatibility. You know, it's like a dating service. They're trying to make sure that everyone's going to be happy in the end, and especially the dog, because they don't want to get that dog back 2 weeks later and put twice the effort into it. Another thing to think about there is, you know, it's easy to maybe not read the entire bio, but you may also have unrealistic expectations for what you can take on or what you can handle. So that's something that needs to be well thought out before you do fill out your first dog adoption application. So make sure you're taking that step to, you know, decipher what your needs are, so that you don't get in over your head, because that is where people get frustrated or disappointed in dog adoption, or in particular, just a rescue dog at all. So don't just fall in love with the picture. Make sure you're reading through that bio and that you're not wasting your time filling out an application that really is for a dog that doesn't suit you. Mistake number 2 is a lack of effort in your application. So many adopters will fill out applications as if they're entitled to the dog in question just because they've completed one. This is really an old way of thinking. You know, back in the day, again, it was so much easier to adopt a dog, and it was pretty much like there were so many dogs in rescues that needed homes that there weren't that many applications per dog, and you were pretty likely to get that dog if you applied. But this kind of thinking nowadays will get you nowhere with dog adoption. You will quickly be filtered out by rescues because your application is just going to sound self-righteous and entitled. Because you're capable of owning a dog, it does not mean you should own a dog, right? There should be some strong information shared on your part to say why you would be a great dog owner. It's good to think of a dog adoption application like an interview or like a job application. You need to be honest about what your strengths and skills are, but you also need to sell yourself. You know, you're just filling out some questions. So you must make sure that you impress the rescue with what your dog ownership skills or preparation or plans are. And this means thinking through your answers and not just putting the first thing that comes to mind down. So, for example, if the application asks, why have you chosen to adopt a rescue dog? A subpar answer to that would be something like, we wanted a dog and we liked this one that was on your website. A great answer would be honest, but state why rescuing is important to you. Toot the rescue's horn here. So, you know, things like, oh, we really didn't want to support a puppy mill. Or it was important for us to give a dog a second chance. Or we really wanted to make a positive impact on a dog's life. Those sorts of answers are great answers and show that you care and aren't just in it for selfish reasons. You are a compassionate individual, which means you're going to be a good dog owner. Mistake number 3 is a poor explanation about previous pets. This mistake is a lot more specific, but it's quite common, and I can understand why it's a hard question to answer. So I'm going to lay out a bit of why this can be such a sticking point on some people's applications. Almost every dog rescue application will prompt you to tell them about your previous pets and how they died. This is a probing question. They want to know what your dog's quality of life was like, what it would take for your dog to have to be euthanized so that they know that the dog that goes to you is going to have a long, healthy life. They're basically sussing out what kind of dog owner you are and to what extent you're willing to go to for your dog. And of course, the further you're willing to go for your dog, all the while making sure they have a good quality of life, the better your application is. So obviously, again, it's so important to be truthful here about what you're sharing, but there's also good ways to share it and bad ways to share it. So this question can be really hard to answer because there are a lot of details that surround your pet's health and their quality of life. So it's not something that is easily stated in a few words. This conversation is something that could really use your tone of voice. And when you're filling out an application, you don't have that ability. So you have to make sure you write it in a way that it shares some tone so that it doesn't seem cold. You don't want it to be so brief that they think, you put zero effort into keeping your dog alive. And it's important that you lay out enough details that the rescue isn't left with major questions. So one thing I know veterinary professionals and rescue organizations don't like to hear is died of old age. Believe it or not, age is not a disease, and there's really a lot that can be done to improve an old animal's life. So it's important to lay things out like they had an unmanageable disease, or the vet recommended that they be euthanized due to the extent of the cancer that they had, or their quality of life was really poor as they didn't have any appetite anymore and we couldn't fix that. All of these details are more acceptable answers and help the rescue kind of understand that you take pet ownership seriously and you're committed to your pet. And you're not just taking things at face value, but making sure to look into health concerns and see them through in those scenarios. So again, important to be honest. And even if it's a previous pet that was a family pet and you didn't have the choice when it came to making big decisions about their health. So say it was your parents' dog, but of course you lived with that dog for many years, but they were the ones footing the bill. And so you really just had to sit and watch them make decisions. Then it's okay to share those things and then say, we euthanized my cat because it had diabetes. Well, we know diabetes is not a death sentence, especially in a cat. It can actually be really common and is an inexpensive disease process to treat, and they can live long, healthy lives with diabetes, but it does require regular care, and some owners aren't up for that. So it's fair to say, my parents had to euthanize a cat because of diabetes, but I do understand now that, that wasn't really a great reason for euthanizing the cat, and that there was more that could have been done to improve my cat's quality of life before it was euthanized. So little things like that make a huge difference in the eyes of the rescue that is looking at your application. I just wanted to take this chance to remind people that I'm not currently taking on one-on-one clients. I had stopped doing that since the birth of my daughter, Naomi, and have been working on an online membership called the Pawdoption Guide Membership Experience, and that is coming out in 2022, so should be January to February that I launch that, and that's going to be the new format in which I serve dog adopters from, searching, locating, dreaming about their rescue dog, to actually applying and adopting, to integrating them into their home and dealing with all the little imperfections or the behavior issues that arise at that point. So it's really an all-in-one process. I can help you from the very start of your search to, really having a well-mannered dog in your home. I'm really looking forward to having this self-serve version of what I had done for clients in the past, and really allowing people to tweak what they need and access all the resources at their fingertips. So look forward to that in 2022, and feel free to join my membership waitlist if you'd love to hear more about that and get some behind the scenes details on what exactly I'm creating and putting into that membership. One of the best things about it is going to be the consultation calls that are possible for VIP members, but also the Q&A calls that are available to all members, and that will be readily available, I think, on a every 2 weeks to monthly basis, so that we can talk about your behavior concerns on a more casual level. So you will have access to my knowledge and expertise, but also be able to serve yourself as you go through the process, so that it's as efficient as possible and you can be as competitive as possible in order to get that perfect match for you as soon as possible. So really, really, really excited to bring you the Pawdoption Guide membership experience in 2022. You can add yourself to the membership waitlist via pawdoptionguide.com/membership waitlist. So let's summarize the 3 ways that dog adopters F up their adoption application. So this is what I really wanted to label the episode, but of course, thought better of it. So 1, applying for incompatible dogs. Stop doing it and just make sure you're paying attention to the dog's profile and you read the entire thing. I know some rescues are getting really, really detailed, and that can make it easy to just want to skip through or skim their profile. But usually the more detailed the profile is, the more you should take notice. So make sure you are compatible. Number 2, the lack of effort in your application is palpable. It's noticed by rescues. So try and slow it down. Don't think about just being a speed demon as you go through that application, and try to really think about why the rescue is asking that question. Don't think about yourself, and really focus on what they want to hear so that you can impress them whilst being honest. But again, it is like a job application. They want to know, will you be a good dog owner? Just like, will you be a good employee? So let them have it. Give them what they want to hear in the most honest way possible. Number 3, the third mistake people make is a poor explanation about their previous pets. So just getting a little too brief here, leaving the rescue wanting to know more or questioning a lot. If they start to get a bit suspicious about what you've said and whether you're hiding something or it doesn't sound like a good reason, that's no good, and is probably just a easy way to filter out your application when they've got so many to look at. So let's try a few ways to write out that scenario and about your previous pets. Try doing it in 1, 2, or 3 different formats, and then having a look at that to see if one was better than the other, and if you could even have someone else read it and see if they were left with questions. And that would be a good way to just make sure you're leaving a good impression in that question, which pretty much comes up in any rescue dog application. All of these mistakes are addressed in my dog adoption application survival kit. It's a digital download system that allows you to nail down the strategies that matter, take the guesswork out of applications, and stand out. It's as simple as reading the PDFs and watching the videos when it works for you, and implementing the methods, language, and tools I personally use with clients for securing them a compatible rescue dog. Don't be discouraged by the dog adoption process. Just head on over to pawdoptionguide.com/application survival kit to improve your application today, or find that link in the show notes. So I hope today's episode was enlightening. It was a bit quicker, a bit briefer than some of my previous ones, but very, very helpful for people who are in the application process. So I hope it helps you readjust your approach to the dog adoption applications, and make sure to tune into the next one. New episodes are uploaded every Thursday or Friday, and if you enjoyed it, please do me a solid and recommend it to your family and friends, or leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Don't forget to get in touch with me on social at Pawdoption Guide via Instagram or my Facebook page. Thanks for listening.